Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my podcast and my official YouTube channel. My name is Ampika Pickston and...
My name is Diane Swaine.
aka, I'd like to call Diane the fairy godmother. So just introduce yourself again, Diane, and tell everyone out there exactly who you are and what you do.
Okay, hi. I'm Diane Swaine. I'm a counsellor and psychotherapist, and I work with clients with all sorts of vulnerable, difficult issues, from low self-esteem, anxiety, some addictions, social media issues, comparisons, not feeling good enough, all sorts of relationship difficulties. But to me, a lot of the underlying things are to do with self-esteem. So hopefully we can help you with that.
So we want to work on techniques every week, and it's talking about checking in with yourself, because I believe that everyone has got a God-given right to be and live out the best version of you. When we talk about peace and happiness, that has to be demonstrated in the way you treat yourself and the relationship that you have with you. So if I can share some of my life experiences and talk about my journey, sometimes not the most pleasant of times when I've been absolutely broken and on my knees, and also times when I've really flourished and I'm kind of like living the dream. I want to be able to talk about techniques that you can input into your daily life, or sometimes once a week, to make you feel good about yourself, because everything is about how you feel, how you treat yourself, and how you love yourself. And we're going to touch on certain topics each week that you'll be able to resonate with, or you probably experience, or you are experiencing. And if we can share and talk, ultimately this life is a classroom, and we can find a better way of existing, then we're doing our job correctly.
Absolutely.
So what I wanted to talk about this week was destructive behaviour. Last week we talked about addictions, and okay, that's something that we continuously work upon, because addiction is not something that we can get rid of overnight. But being kind to yourself and doing little daily techniques, tips, mindfulness, meditation, all these little things that you can do. It's like sprinkling yourself with love and a little bit of magic. And that's what we're here to talk about. So I wanted to talk about self-destruction and people with very, very destructive behaviour, because that's one of the things that will stop and sabotage you from living your life to the full. Myself personally, I can talk about destructive behaviour. It probably stems from childhood. I think we've all had situations in our life, whether it be as a child, as an adolescent growing up, or even in our adulthood, where we've had certain things happen to us. We've been subject to some form of abuse. Abuse comes in all different shapes and forms: mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, just overall not having a pleasant experience. And for me as a child, the certain things that I was subjected to, it was almost like having in your mind as a child, having this picture perfect bedroom and having someone come into your bedroom and just sabotage it, and you just don't know how to stop them. You don't know how to fix everything in your bedroom. It's like all of a sudden my perfect world of what should have been a perfect world as a child was robbed from me. And it took me a long time to accept the past as the past, not take it with me throughout my teenage years and also into my adult years. And it's very strange, because when you have had certain experiences that have happened to you, you would think to yourself, well, why would you not wrap yourself in a cotton wool ball and give yourself some love? Why would you, if you've been abused, why would you then go on to abuse yourself? And it's funny, isn't it, how it's kind of like that sabotage button, that self-destruction button. And I think it's only probably the last 12 months, I'm 38 now, the last 12 months that I've been able to put that to bed. And for a long time I've walked around with it. It's almost been like it's hijacked my mind. It's been a hostage. And I had to tell myself that my past was part of my journey. It's not my destination. And I don't have to carry it around with me. I don't hold guilt. I don't hold shame. I have just let go of it. And I'm sure people out there listening to me will be able to resonate with those words of abuse. We've all been abused in some shape or form in our lives, and some of us are continuously living that abuse every day. And it's appreciating that you sometimes have no control over what people do to you. Doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you any less of a person, it doesn't defy you, but it's learning to let go. And it's taken me a hell of a long time and a hell of a lot of self-loathing, hatred towards myself, sabotaging myself, to finally feel free. So Diane, can you share some tips with us how to slowly let go? I'll talk about my journey in a bit, but you know, you've dealt with a lot of people that have obviously had very similar situations to me and are still on that self-destruction button and are still pressing it continuously every day.
One thing I'd like to ask you is that what sort of help did you seek to actually come through that as well? You know, when you say, I know there was the catalyst that we talked about last week in the podcast, wasn't there? When Leanne, bless her, took you to the mirror and said, look in there and tell yourself you know you love yourself. And there was a watershed for that with you, and that sort of started a catalyst of the last 2 years journey, didn't it?
Yeah.
So when you talked before about sabotaging behaviour and those sorts of things, what how did you turn things around in the past 2 years to stop that sort of behaviour?
I think, well, I have seen therapists on and off, and to be honest, my personal experience of a lot of therapists that I've chosen or the show have, that when I was filming the show have a duty of care to look after all of their cast members. Previous to the show, I have seen people and I haven't really found a counsellor that I valued or I had respect for or I thought their information was of any value to me. So I tried a few people, and to be honest, for me, everyone says that talking about your past is very cathartic and it's really good to unravel yourself to somebody else and have your time. I would actually, in my personal opinion, for me as a person, would disagree with that. I don't want to talk about all the things that have happened to me to somebody else, because it's like me getting a knife and slashing open that wound on my leg again. I don't find it healing. I find like, because I'm talking about it, I am reliving it, and I'm going back to all that pain, all that anguish, all that mental distorted way of existence that I had back then as a child, and I'm reliving it. So why do I want to do that to myself again? So I didn't find that helpful. When I was on the show, I've got to give a lot of credit to a therapist who was called Rachel, who's based in Wilmslow, and she's, I think the world of, I should probably check in with her. And she came up with some really poignant points about me and my existence, and I suppose she started the journey. Subsequently, I left the show and I carried on seeing Rachel for a little bit, and then I struggled to stick with times because of my work schedule and my dedication to my son. I needed to take some time out away from sticking into certain routines. I wanted to be free from the show and set times, etc., etc. So I stopped seeing Rachel. But then a lot of the things that we discussed on sessions, I started to implement in my life, and Rachel did a very, very good job of me surrendering to my past. She knew I never wanted to talk about my past, and she would spend each therapy session saying, come on Ampika, let's talk about it. I know what's gone on, let's talk about it. Let's unravel. This is a safe environment. And I just really struggled to do that. I struggled to give that control and power over to somebody else to literally blurt it out. She knew a lot of what had gone on, but go into finer detail. I just didn't want to do it, and I still had a resilience to want to do it. But I suppose what she did was she shone a light on my behaviour, and she shone a light and said, this Ampika, this type of behaviour is a knock-on effect because of this is what's happened to you. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't marry the two up. It's like, this has happened to me, which is really traumatic. This is the way I behave. But actually, the two are very symbolic because the two are parallels together. Once we don't allow ourselves to accept the past, we continue with the self-destruction road. So really, all it is it's carrying your past on into your future life. So she highlighted that for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because you were so brave, as so many people are, who seek, you know, any kind of talking therapy, and it is a very, very brave, difficult thing to do. And not everybody is comfortable with sitting on a one-on-one in a closed room, even though confidentiality is always guaranteed, and the safeguarding of all the clients, you know, that every therapist see is paramount. But I think that everybody works, don't they, in a different way. So, but what's interesting is you've reflected on seeing Rachel and thinking, oh, well, I did start to use some of her techniques. I did start to think about this. And I think that when clients come to see me, and you know, I think that a good holistic approach to talking with people is we look at psychotherapy, counselling and CBT. That's my approach from a holistic point of view, because psychotherapy is looking at people's more focused on the past, and like you were saying before, where you know where your difficulties and challenges have come from. So it's shining a light on that, and really talking through with the client where some of those issues and difficulties and learnt behaviour and scripts for life has come through, possible traumatic events. That would be the psychotherapy side of things. And then we've moved into more of the counselling, where counselling in simple terms is the here and now, and how do we deal with what we've got in front of us and the issues, and you know, if we're overeating or we're abusing ourselves or abusing other people and this type of thing, the here and now with the counselling, what we can do about it. And then thrown in with that some CBT methods, which is the cognitive behavioural therapy, where we would be looking at people's thought processes, how they're thinking, are they thinking positively or negatively, you know, are they using that negative vocabulary on other people and on themselves, you know, I hate myself, I can't do this, and what we try to do is to turn it round so that people will say, well, I'm choosing not to do that actually to myself, or I'm choosing to do that to help empower people. So those are, you know, in very broad terms, the psychotherapy, the counselling and the CBT mixed together would give people, you know, a good basis really to focus on themselves, with talking therapists of course, to take them forward, to leave the past behind, deal with it, shine the light on it, but deal in a way that is right for them, because as you've quite rightly said, Ampika, you know, it wasn't for you to a degree, but you've obviously benefited from it, which is fantastic. Massively, yeah.
So I had to go within myself, because I was analysing, and I think this is a brilliant exercise. I don't care who you are and where you're from, is to have your little notepad at the side of your bed each night, an eye mood map. Yeah, no one's going to tell me, oh, Ampika, you look great, or Ampika, you look like poo, or Ampika, you're happy, say Ampika, you're sad. I know my inner thoughts, and I know how I feel about myself. So when I get into bed at night, the first thing I do, obviously get into the bed with my 3 doggies, and I get my journal out, and I write down how I felt that day.
Right.
So I can see exactly what's happened, how I've behaved, and how I feel about myself. And that is a really good guide to me checking in with myself.
Yeah.
And if I look and analyse how I felt, 90% of the time when I felt good, it's because I've done something for myself. So when I talk to you guys about checking in and giving you 5 like useful tips of things that you can do each day, even if I manage to do one of them, whether that's have 20 minutes for myself to put my headset on and listen to a mantra about being powerful and being beautiful and having inner peace, whether that's walking the dogs, whether that's having a lovely bath with all my favourite oils and my candles on, whatever it is, I was being kind to myself for that 20-minute window of the day. Nothing else mattered apart from me giving myself some self-love and self-assurance. And every time I did something like that each day, it kind of like became a habit. So the bad habits of self-destruction, self-abuse, pushing my body to the limits, abuse myself in every way possible and abusing my mind, I'd be doing a little bit of something nice to myself. So now it becomes part of my life. I will do something in my day, even for 20 minutes, half an hour, to make me feel nice and to give myself some time.
Yeah.
Because I am important and I deserve to be loved.
Yeah.
I have a God-given right to do that, and I cannot expect anybody or put restrictions on you must, or that person, or an attachment, or expect anybody else to do anything for me but myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, to get to this mindset that I'm at now, it's been 2 years. It's Rachel, the therapist, shining a light on my behaviour, and me going away and really thinking long, deep and hard, and getting my book out at night and writing down, saying, well, actually, I've had a really bad day today because I've done this, I've been angry, I've been very frustrated, I've lashed out. All of these things tells me, checking in on myself, I haven't had a good day today, but what I've actually done to make myself feel happy, what I've actually done to give myself a little bit of me time and self-love, well, I haven't actually done anything. So tomorrow's going to be a better day for me. Yeah. So that's the start of it. Yeah. That's the start of it.
That's fantastic as well, because what you're saying there as well, Ampika, is about, you know, you're really focused on your feelings there. And that's one thing that I find with a lot of clients, that they've forgotten how to feel or how to actually think about how they're feeling, and they'll come in saying, I think this, I think that. And I think in today's stressful, very, very busy existence, that people don't pay attention to how they're feeling. And it's in that time, like you're saying, you're giving to yourself, that we actually start to think about how we're really feeling, rather than I'm thinking this or I'm thinking that, you know.
It's painful though. It's painful to think.
Yeah.
That's why we mask it with prescription drugs or alcohol. We mask it, or gambling, or sexual, you know, being sexually promiscuous. We mask it because when you have to sit down and you have to process those feelings, most of the time, we're encompassed with pain.
Yeah,
and
so
pain is not a nice feeling.
No,
pain is a horrible feeling, but I tell
you
what, once you experience the pain, as I say, it's like going through a bloodbath. You know, halfway into it, you're like, God, this is really, really painful. I cannot cope with it. I'll do anything to get myself away from dealing with this pain. But all of a sudden, you do come out the other end. You have to process it. You have to let it out. It's the biggest gift. It's the biggest gift you'll give to yourself. Let the pain out.
Yeah, well, there's that old adage, isn't there? You know, the best way out is through, which I think is so, so true. To feel those feelings, process them, sit with them, and absorb them and think about them, and then let them just literally flow through you. But we can only do that when we sit in times of peace, silence, have a bath, like you say, walk the dog, all those sorts of tricks that we learn just to spend time with ourselves and just to be with our feelings.
Very much. And I'd just like to say to people that are watching this and listening to it as well, everyone's situation is very, very different, and we've all been through pain and certain chapters in our life, and we've done some things that weren't our finest moment, but you all have a given right to let yourself be free and be free of the past. The past is not a ball and chain around your ankle. It's not something that we have to carry on throughout the rest of our lives. We all should deserve a chance to be free and to be the best version of ourselves. And I only started really living my life the last 12 months when I let myself be free. I literally got that imaginary rucksack off my back, and that rucksack was fueled with everything from self-hatred to self-loathing to being ashamed of myself to continuously wanting to hurt myself. And why? It was triggered through all these things in the past, things that had happened to me beyond my control, and I was carrying them around. It's like I'd hijacked my own mind. And once I let go of it and realised that my past does not define me, I'm entitled to be happy and to love myself. Get that rucksack off, get the stones off your backpack and dump it somewhere, because that is something that we cannot change. So I wanted to go into quickly mindfulness, because that's something that I try to do at least once a day, even if it's for 5 minutes. And when people say mindfulness, that's a massive buzzword now. Mindfulness, what is mindfulness? Is it meditation? Is it sitting there smiling? Is it driving along in the car being brain dead? No, mindfulness is from an old tradition of Buddhist teachings, and it's living for the moment. It's living for the here and now. So when we say, let's put it into practice, if I was going to do mindfulness right now, it's not thinking about the past, it's not anything that's destroyed me or any negative feelings, it's living right now in this moment. So if I'm going to do it with you guys at home, I would literally sit in a really comfortable position, I'd light a candle, I'd get my crystals out, I'd close my eyes, and I feel nothing. I'm just living literally within this moment, not the future, not what someone said to me today, not my past. I'm just feeling a sense of total wholeness and contentment. And I feel that best probably when I go on holiday, if I'm lucky enough to like get in the seawater or go in a swimming pool or go to your local baths, or have a bath at home. Normally I tend to feel mindfulness when I'm around water, just getting into a shower, a really hot shower, and just feeling all that lovely warm water on my skin and feeling cleansed, and just looking at my feet and my hair and my eyelashes and just being appreciative of every little part of me. Whether you think it's beautiful or you think it's ugly, I don't care, it's irrelevant. I'm just living for that moment. And that's what mindfulness is. It's setting yourself free and it's living for the moment. And that's what we forget about. It's living for the here and now. I ain't carrying my past around with me for the rest of my life, and I'm certainly going to stop the road of self-destruction. So that rucksack got dumped a long time ago, and that for me is like magic. So if I can pass on some tips, Diane, to everybody else at home, how they can do mindfulness.
Yeah, I think as well, on there is a book that I read when I was about 15 or 16, a long time ago, by Dale Carnegie, which is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Mm-hmm. And he talks in a different reference, but it's the same thing really. He talks about living in tight compartments, and also like hourly compartments, which is exactly what you're saying there. So the book is called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, Dale Carnegie, and it is just a really good point of reference. Very old book, but really worthwhile, because it's almost like some of the original first thoughts around mindfulness, all the sorts of things you're saying, Ampika. And I think that, you know, for me, if I'm doing mindfulness a little bit with clients, to particularly if they've suffered a high anxiety attack before I've seen them or whatever, I will get them to take the shoes and socks off, put the feet on the ground, feel the toes on the carpet or wherever we are, you know, look around, seeing what they can see, focusing on their breathing, what they can smell, everything that's just a physical and sort of visual sight right in front of them, so that they can, as you're quite right saying, you know, just be in the moment and try and not focus or worry about anything else external to that. All about, you know, them in the moment, what they can see, what they can taste, what they can hear and feel, just to bring them right back down, connecting with the universe.
Connecting with yourself.
Connecting with yourself 100%. Yeah.
So I'd love you guys to try some mindfulness at home. Go and take yourself into a quiet corner with no distractions, or go outside. Just smell the fresh air. It's for free. Like Diane said, take your shoes and socks off. Feel the blades of the grass underneath your feet. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling, even if it's just for 5 minutes. So I am looking forward to speaking and seeing you guys next week. Diane and I would love to hear from you. There's certain subjects and topics that I'm sure that you're thinking that you would really like us to discuss. So please drop us a line. We'll be very interested to hear anything that you've got to talk about, discuss, share with us. See you next week, guys.
Bye.